Every day, around 1,400 planes take off and land here at Heathrow, Europe's busiest airport. Heathrow shareholders past and present have hoped to increase that number via a third runway, but for almost 2 decades, proposals to build one have faced political and economic hurdles aplenty. Today, Heathrow's boss has unveiled new plans he hopes will finally get the go-ahead from government.
The airport we see behind us is full. And that is to the detriment of the UK economy, to the detriment of trade, and to the detriment of connectivity. To spur economic growth, thousands of jobs, billions in investments, we need a third runway to the benefit of the UK.
Heathrow says its plans for a third runway would enable an additional 276,000 flights per year. That would mean 756,000 yearly flights in total. The runway would be privately funded with a cost of £21 billion. That's up due to inflation from the £14 billion forecast for similar plans back in 2018. Terminal capacity would also be expanded by 66 million passengers up to 150 million with a new terminal complex built. The airport claims its plans will create up to 40,000 permanent jobs and will add more than £17 billion in economic value to GDP. Heathrow has tried and failed to build a third runway before. Gordon Brown's government approved plans in 2009, which were overturned by the Conservatives. In 2018, Parliament voted in favour of Heathrow expansion, but COVID put that on hold. In January, the Chancellor gave her full support as part of the government's goal of economic growth.
The question of whether to give Heathrow, our only hub airport, a third runway has run on for decades. A third runway is badly needed.
But some have concerns over the potential disruption of these plans. Hundreds of homes would have to be demolished, and Britain's busiest motorway, the M25, would be rerouted through a tunnel beneath the runway. Others fear expansion could come at the expense of the environment and Britain's climate commitments.
This will significantly increase the aviation sector's CO2 emissions at a time when the government has kind of got a real drive on to achieve net zero by 2050. So there really is a risk that this expansion of Heathrow will put those net zero ambitions in jeopardy.
Those feelings were echoed by London's Mayor Sir Sadiq Khan, who said, "I remain opposed to a new runway at Heathrow Airport because of the severe impact it will have in terms of noise, air pollution and meeting our climate change targets." Heathrow is awaiting clarification from the government before submitting a formal application, and a rival plan has also been proposed that involves a shorter runway. The Transport Secretary will have to consider them both, meaning this long-running saga looks set to run longer still. Will Tullis, ITV News.
Well, our economics editor Joel Hills is at Heathrow at this lunchtime. Joel, the cost of this is going to be eye-watering. Who's going to pay for it?
Well, initially, the airport, they have the bank financing in place. Their shareholders, their investors, who include wealth funds in Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, are behind the venture, but obviously they will look to recoup their costs. They'll do it by charging airlines more to use the airport, and there's every reason to expect that those charges will be passed on. So I think ultimately it's reason to be sceptical of the claim that the Heathrow expansion will lead to cheaper fares. It's clearly in Heathrow's commercial interest to make the airport bigger. The question is it in the UK's national interest? The government thinks it is, and Sir Howard Davies, who led the Airports Commission, agrees. He's one of many economists who think that this would be good for Britain's prosperity. The vast sums of money that would be spent on the construction phase would create lots of jobs thereafter. The hope would be that trade and investment would flow into the UK as it becomes a much more attractive place for businesses to work in. However, there is an environmental cost, and Lord Sir Howard Davies was saying that he doesn't think if Heathrow goes ahead that Luton and Gatwick should be allowed to expand. He doesn't think that's compatible with tackling climate change, and Lord Debon the former head of the Climate Change Committee, which advises the government on its own legally binding commitments on reducing CO2 emissions, also thinks airport expansion like this is a bit crazy.